Hi, and welcome to my channel. So, this is kind of new for me, no editing, just kind of gonna go off the rip here, trying to see if this works. So, first off, let me say thank you for coming by and having a listen. I'd like to start by talking about myself. My name is Al, and I come from Detroit. I'm here in Florida now. Um, Came down in October to try and make something happen with custom paint and the other mediums I work in. So um, I'm a medicated bipolar, sober for the better part of 13 years, 2 years, fell off, 3 fell off, and then 8 consistently now. Whatever you choose to do, that's on you. If it makes you happy, cool. If it doesn't, and it doesn't hurt anybody else, that's fine too. Um, my background, so in Detroit, went to the auto show as a kid all the time, influenced heavily by hot rods and culture like that. 1980, moved to Phoenix, Arizona, where got influenced by skateboard, BMX, hair metal, heavy metal, all that different culture that was out there, tattoo shops, surf shops, vans. It goes on and on, the influences there. Came back to Michigan in 1987. Went to 4 different high schools, had several different art teachers. Nothing really took until the last year, I think it was, where I had 2 different art teachers, a husband and wife, that one taught graphic design and the other like a general all-encompassing art class. They both gave me the big push to try and go to CCS, but that wasn't happening. Coming from a single parent household, and the expense to go to CCS was, I want to say, $40K at the time, maybe. It just seemed out of my price range and just wasn't happening. Plus, there was a huge push to get a portfolio together, which I didn't have the drive to make that happen. Fast forward out of high school, not doing anything creative. Had a daughter in '95, and that same year started getting tattooed. So, because of the people that I met getting tattooed, I think that heavily influenced me on art. But I wasn't doing anything creative until, man, I don't even know. Here and there, just little things, but nothing substantial. Fast forward again to 2000 something. I started working in direct care for mentally challenged and physically disabled adults. This taught me a lot about myself as well as other people and how they interact with you, whether it's how you treat them or how you speak to them or just small things like that. Now, this was a great learning experience, but physically and mentally it took a toll on me. But it did help with my own bipolar and figuring out that I needed to be medicated and keep my own swings in check and stay on the level when it comes to bipolar. Now, I've always tried to do things creatively to keep depression at bay. So, I think because I work in a lot of mediums now, 8 maybe, whenever I'm working with my hands and doing something creative, this makes everything better. Working out feels better, you know, but drinking is in the rear view, and that's just not an option anymore for me. So once I was in direct care for about 7 years, I was feeling it, getting kind of burnt out. So I decided to make a change and left. So one of the options with living in Flint, Grand Blanc area at the time was Baker College for auto body. So I went to auto body school. Now, this opened me up creatively to start doing things that had always been under the surface and influenced me there, but I didn't really know how that was going to impact me until later. So, um, I had two instructors, Jay James and Greg, I cannot think of his name. And then my second year in, or part of my first year, the opportunity came up to take Airbrush classes with Hal Liu. Once again, opened me up creatively to doing things, learning different techniques, um, you name it, from one end of the gamut to the other of custom paint. So by the time I left Baker, I had one class left, a structure class, and that was it to get all my auto body stuff done. But they would make you take general education classes at the main campus, which for me really didn't work because I'm more of a tactile learner. I'd rather you show me something with my hands, how to do it, etc., than find my way back. Sorry, bugs flying around in here. Um, so yeah, get out of Baker, go back to direct care for about 3 years, and just fold. Can't do it. So completely change gears and go from that to working third shift at Home Depot for about 7 years. So I would go in at 8 o'clock at night, come out 4:30 or 6 in the morning. By the time I left, I was doing 8 to 6 and 4 10s, having Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to paint. So during this time, um, I had moved in with my mom, and she was kind enough to give me half a garage, which I built out into the first studio version. Um, so, rough framing, slowly accumulating different equipment, products that I was using. Um, which prior to that, I had a small place in Pontiac. I wouldn't really call it a studio. It was more like just a ton of art supplies from wall to wall and a crap ton of artwork outside that got creative. But backtrack a little bit, when I was in Pontiac, I didn't really want to be tied to a compressor. Like, I had a small pancake that I was using to airbrush with some airbrushes that I acquired from being at Baker from a tool award, and some were purchased used in Hal Liu's class after getting out, along with some stencils and other stuff by Sada. So during this time, I started buying art supplies at Coast Airbrush and following a lot of their live feeds, watching other artists that were coming through Coast and doing YouTube as well, trying to learn these techniques and see what I could do with these techniques and, just come out the other side with. So after that didn't work out, back to my mom's place and building out half the 2-car garage and then the first studio. So during this 7-year process, did a lot of things creatively when I wasn't working or working out or whatever else was going on. Started doing pop-up gallery shows with a group of people called the Moving Pictures. With these connections and other connections, it led to other things. An event out in Dearborn called Paint Out in the Park. This is a great event. It takes place all weekend. You have about 50 different creatives all in the same space, and the artist vibe is just amazing. The people that put it on, Sunshine and Sasha and Steve, it's just amazing. If you get the opportunity to do this event in Detroit, Dearborn, please submit work to it and get in contact with these people. The opportunity came up to move down here to Florida with my paint instructor, Jay James. So his circumstances changed. Mine had slightly changed as well. I had since moved out of the Warren place helped my mom move into a condo in Clinton Township, and she was kind enough to rent the basement to me, which was 1,100 square feet. Once again, this was studio version 2, 1,100 square feet. By this point, I had started working with epoxy resins, powder pigments, had built out part of it for a studio for Airbrush and other work as well. Another part for living space, sleeping, and then the almost like a living room, like Detroit style loft. Within 2 to 3 months, built out the space while working third shift, as well as packing up the old Warren place and moving it over to Clinton Township. So that was maybe a year, 2 years in Clinton Township, maybe under a year. I'm not even sure right now, but that was hard to take 1,100 square feet, living space and studio, as well as leave the family in Florida to try and in Detroit to come to Florida. Trying to do all this in one take. But I figured if I wanted to do custom paint, this was the client and the weather, climate and the weather for it was going to happen here in Florida, or at least maybe open the door to some other opportunities. So here we are in version 3, which shortly by May 1st will be no longer available to use this space. This house has been sold, and we're moving on to the next space. Where the next space is, not quite sure. Got a couple different things we're looking at. One is an apartment. Another idea is to get an old schoolie bus and convert it into a mobile living space as well as studio. I don't think that that's financially an option right now, but it is my favorite option. So what are you going to do? You got to go with what you got and what you can make happen, right? So most recently I did Brush Fest here in Florida, where it was a great group of pinstripe artists as well as other artists to network with, and the event was to raise money for Habitat for Humanity. Now, because of meeting these artists, starting to accumulate some more supplies through all the different supplies that I had accumulated, if we can backtrack a little bit, there was a 2-year point where I went from Warren, flew out to Anaheim, California, and took classes with the pros at Coast Airbrush after buying supplies there. So the first year out, I made a lot of connections and met people and took Steve Gibson's freehand realism class, and this opened me up to working with House of Color and solvent paints. Prior to this, I had been working with Createx and water-based paints. Came back, fired up, worked on these things. Second trip out, took lowrider classes with Bugs and Armando, and that opened up some more things. So if you get the chance to take a 4-day class, wherever it may be, with some pros, take advantage of it if you can financially. It will propel you forward. The skills and techniques that you learn, you can take with you and try and use on your own, see what you can come up with in your custom paint or whatever your medium of choice is you're working. Back here to Florida. So in version 3, which is about to fold here shortly, and we will be moving on to whatever comes next, hopefully with hard work and whatever the universe has in store for us, it will turn another page. I don't feel like it's your destination, It's the journey that gets you there, and the things and the people that you meet along the way that make this happen. So, as far as the future goes, what I'd like to do with this channel is maybe share my experiences, what I've learned over the past 10 years with working in the 8 different mediums that I work in. Maybe it'll inspire somebody else to be creative or help them out on their creative art journey. I feel like there aren't enough people going into trades per se, right? Working with your hands, learning old craftsmanship skills, whether it's carpentry, whether it's fabrication, metal work, you name it, from 1A to Z, as far as that goes. Coffee, my favorite thing. Tell people I'm a functioning insomniac. I function on insomnia, coffee, and paint fumes. So, here you go. This is where we're at right now. Whether YouTube does anything or if this helps anybody, I hope it does. Like I said, I just want to share what I've learned and from the pros, and hope that it sparks somebody else's interest in what they're doing. Now, as far as products, equipment, materials, I'm not sponsored by anybody. Everything that I have here in the studio, I've worked for, bartered for, or worked out some kind of trade where I've traded something for something. So, if you see me using something or talking about a product, it's because of experience with that product. It's not because I'm getting paid to. So I'm gonna leave it here for now and hope that I find you in the future and we both can learn from each other in this community and see what happens. Thanks for stopping by and listening to me. Take care.